3 basic concepts for you to understand when it comes to shapes. These are going to be really important. Pay attention, and I'll tell you what they are. So let's learn something today. So shapes are ultimately the first fundamentals that we need to understand drawing. So there are 3 of them that we need to know. Identification, which is identify, second is breakdown, and the third is clarification and distinguish. I'll explain each one of them in their own subgenre respectively. Now we have something called identification. Identification ultimately helps us in the sense of using squares, circles, and triangles or any other shape to identify what we're looking at. Even though we see them as silhouettes, we don't really know what they are. So I'm going to erase each of them, just show what they are. So we have something called a Pokédex, the Pokeball, and the Triforce from Legend of Zelda. That's how you identify things. This is just a basic concept by using just silhouettes in general. Breakdown. Now this one is just as much as important as the rest, but this is a breakdown of each part in their own category. So that's why I have 1 to 3 cubes of the same cube, and I'll explain what they are. So just bear with me on this. So the idea of something called primary, secondary, and tertiary shapes are something that you will learn and something you will hear about in either in the art world or in formal education. It doesn't really matter, but you'll hear this eventually. So primary shapes is the outline of the subject at hand, pretty much the overall, like, think of the silhouette, but not the inside, but the outside, just the overall outline, if you pretty much think of it in that sense. Just like think of a box, but no color in the middle, just ultimately the outside. Now, if we go to secondary shapes, this is ultimately taking the pieces that makes up the whole shape. So see how I went to each box showing the line? It's pretty much like that if you think about it. It's the medium shapes that makes up the bigger shapes. Now, this is something that you're going to pretty much figure out as time goes by, but if you point out more easily for others to understand, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, I have a good understanding of what that means. So I know what primary and secondary shapes are. Now for tertiary shapes, it's not really about the shape, it's more of the last of the finishing details. If you think about it, it's not really focusing on what made up the shape, but it's just the finer details, the things that are like more inside the shape than outside the shape. It's just the remaining details, nothing more, nothing less. It's pretty much what that is. So that's what I consider like tertiary shapes. They have their significance, but it's not such an effect towards the primary and secondary shapes, because once you get the primary and secondary shapes, you're pretty much good from that point. Clarification. So for clarification, I have 3 different characters here, or at least 3 different subjects. We have Steve from Minecraft, and I'm going to break it down by using primary shapes first, by using the red lines so you guys can see. I'll pull down the opacity so it makes it easier for you guys to see it, and there you go. So I'm pulling that out. Now I'm going to secondary shapes. I do make a bit of a mistake here on my behalf because I kind of lined up stuff that didn't make sense, like the hair and the side of the ear, because that's not important. That's not what makes up the overall shape for Steve, but it's okay because we make mistakes and all that stuff. Now in the green, this is tertiary shapes. These are, like I said, the finer details. These doesn't make up the overall idea of the character at all. They're just the little things that brings out like the personality, if anything, but not the shape or the outline itself. Alright, so I go to Tondril from Demon Slayer. I also do the outline of him as well, and I break him down a little bit, piece by piece, with using those medium shapes, like again in blue. And then once I get done, you can find the green and everything else from the tertiary shapes. Everything else that is not as important between the primary and the secondary shapes. And as you can see, I move with the Mobile Suit Gundam by breaking it down by using the primary shapes first, and then I go secondary by breaking it down by making it into pieces with the blue. As you can see, I'm about to put that in, and then as I'm done doing that, just the pieces that just makes up the silhouette, and then I go with the green, making up the face, the mouth, and everything else that's not as important, but it is important in the long run. Now let's just recap where we are now. We used all what we learned to understand and use shapes to our advantage to make up our drawing, to make it better than anything. I didn't draw anything specific, but I broke it down into pieces so you guys can have a better understanding. So I use identification, getting the general subject, and I use a breakdown to also put in for primary, secondary, and tertiary shapes. Pretty much. And what these are, just to recap, that primary shapes is the overall outline of something, like not the silhouette, because that I think it's a little bit different when you use silhouette, so I use outline. That's better. Medium build shapes for secondary, and tertiary is ultimately the remaining details. So that's what they are. So remember, secondary is just build up of the shapes, and then tertiary is the details. Now, to clarify and distinguish specifically what is our subject is pretty much like the Pokedex, the Pokeball, the Gundam, Tanjiro, and Steve from Minecraft. All these are just amalgamations of these things so you can understand them. So alright, thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. Sub, like, and share. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Also, if you guys really like what you see here, if you want to see more videos like this, please join the Patreon if you want to support me, so you guys can get more better content than this, so I can do more extra stuff and teach you guys as best as I can. This was really awesome. I thank you guys so much. Like I said, please go to that Patreon, because this will make things a lot more easier for me to make better content and also do awesome challenges and stuff like that for you guys for art stuff, mainly for my anime audience out there who really like my stuff. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you guys in my live streams. Have a great night, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Keep it plus ultra, guys, and see ya.